So it's about 1:30 in the morning, and I'm thinking a lot. I just wrote a little bit. I was trying to write a poem about how women are neglected by other women. We're the first to throw other women under the bus. We're the first to call other women whores and sluts and bitches. We have internalized patriarchy on such a deep level that we don't look out for each other. We sabotage sister circles and sisterhoods. And all of it at the end is insidious mistrust of the feminine, a mistrust of of female power and fear of some of other women and their power and their strength. And I think about growing up, and I think about the things that I've learned in the short little 30 years that I've been on the planet. And I remember I had a conversation, a really, really, really brief conversation with my mom one time. And I was talking about sex, or like, I think the topic came up of some sort. I don't even remember the exact conversation. I was in midwifery school. And I remember saying to my mother, you know, you didn't tell me, or you didn't really give me a lot of information um about sex, and her response was just like, well, it was really taboo to talk about it, and to talk about it, this, that, and the third. And I wasn't upset with her, well, at least not at that moment, because I have come to peace with that particular lack of my life of sexual education. And I remember that I said, Mommy, you put me in danger. you know I'm not sure that registered for her, but I meditate about that. Like, you put, like, we put young women, we put ourselves in danger, put each other at danger from withholding vital information, from explaining sex, um, feminine or reproductive health concerns and things we should know. Um, it's almost like we're afraid to share knowledge. Like, we're hazing each other. Women haze women into this cult of womanhood that we have created in this artificial reality that we live in. We are kind of like, oh, well, I had it hard and I had to figure it out on my own, so you figure it out on your own. I wouldn't say that every single person is like that, and I wouldn't say that we don't help each other ever. But the prevailing narrative that I hear is this just neglect and misunderstanding and constant judgment of women. Tonight I was having a conversation with a coworker, and we were talking about how hard it is to be in your 20s, and how your 20s for a woman is particularly difficult because you are making this transition between being a girl, adolescent, to a grown woman in 10 years. And there's no guidelines. We create our own guidelines from the experiences that we have. And I remember sharing with her, because she's a little bit younger than me. Like, I had to learn so many things the hard way, and I think that I could have bypassed some of that if I had healthy role models and friends there trying to help. And I think part of it as well is that those older people and women that I would have sought for help, or that we would like to look for help for, are also deeply wounded. They're not they may not be in the space to fully and completely understand their responsibility to those younger than them. I know that for myself, as someone who is maturing, um, I lose sight of that. I lose sight of that when I get caught up in my own life. I guess I lose sight of that when I get caught up in needing what I need. And I'm just deeply concerned with how many women we're losing. Not just like physically losing in death, but like how many women we're losing to the world. How many women we lose to abusive marriages, or um, how many women we lose to drugs, to homelessness, to silence, to trauma. We lose so many women and they're still walking among us. Does it make sense? Like, we don't have sisters keepers. We're not our sisters keepers. We're always our brothers keepers. Even with everything that's gone always gone that goes on or has gone on with um men sexually traumatizing and violating women, and the question of her honesty and her word. We're always taught to keep our brothers and never our sisters. Why? We keep losing them. So these wars and mental illness, you know, insanity, and Black and Latina women particularly, we get lost. We slip through the cracks so fast, so much faster. And I'm just like, I'm wishing that we had, or we can build these systems where not only are we receiving encouragement and knowledge from our peers, but that we're having intergenerational learning, intergenerational keeping, sister keeping, intergenerational sister keeping. I like that. How can we commit to our younger generation if we're not keeping them, if we're not telling them the truth, if we're not educating them or helping to break the intergenerational cycles of trauma? Like, where are why is it that after high school it's kind of just like, all right, bye, see you later, I'll see you in the delivery room, or I'll see you at the wedding, like, when, like, after 22, 25, there's this enormous gap for support for women. And I really feel that in your 20s and 30s, like, there's so much that happens that I think I needed more guidance at that age, you know. And I feel like a lot of women that I come into contact with, they need a lot of guidance at that age. Unfortunately, so many of us are stretched so thin that we can't commit to be there every single day. Because that's another thing, like, some of us want to be that role model, want to be there and nurture and cultivate. But the demands of this capitalist and imperialist and patriarchal society don't allow for that. So I understand both those tensions. I understand the tension of wanting to help and wanting to break cycles. And then I also understand the tension of not being able to. But I think that I'm just getting to the point where, like, when do we stop making, when do we stop letting women die emotionally and mentally and physically and spiritually? You know, like, we treat women like wild horses, waiting for them to be broken in. We're taught that we are like chattel or men, that our only duty is to have children and keep the house and make small talk with the women and women talk. You know, for as much as I've said that we haven't kept each other, we have throughout the years tried to keep each other alive. You know, I I feel like the untamed, unpunctured spirit must be what this world is so afraid of when contained in the body of millions of women. What would happen if all the women were set on fire from within, if liberated from the chains of these tough lessons that we have to learn, that we've been entrusted with the portal to life? You know, and with that there comes such a different dimension of understanding and burden. How do we do that? It's something that I question and ask myself. I'm really thinking about that a lot. I really am. I'm really thinking about that a lot. I think I'm especially thinking about it today because I gave advice to one sister and had another conversation with my two coworkers, both like sister friends. Talking from experience to them, like, you know, this is what I went through. You don't have to go through it. Like, that's bullshit that you have to learn through your own mistakes. You can't learn from other people's mistakes. That's bullshit. That we can't. And I just wish there was something that I could do. I wish I could advise every 20-something year old from the limited bit of wisdom that I have.